And this is something that's so funny, and I think you'll agree with me. It's, you know, if you're consistent and you do what you say and you show up, you'll be a success. You'll be ahead of 99.9% of people. I mean, it's that simple. Like, it's not even like exceptional geniuses. If you show up and you do what you say, and you always follow through, you will be ahead of 99.9% of people in the workforce.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 428.
This is the podcast where everyday millionaires spill the beans on their stacks of green. We're your hosts, Jason Stacy, ready to bring you the unscripted tales of wealth, warts and all, because who needs a script when you're rolling in dough?
Join us as we dive into the net worths and asset allocations of regular folks turned financial titans. It's like Cribs, but with fewer gold-plated toilets and more practical advice.
We promise the only rare edits are to be kid-friendly, so you won't hear any naughty language, just lots of cha-ching and maybe a sprinkle of do-re-mi. So buckle up, tighten those purse strings, and get ready to laugh and learn with Millionaires Unveiled. Today, we've got a very fun episode, but before we get into it, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. We're always looking for new, great, entertaining guests, and even some returning guests who are willing to give us an update, share their story, and let us learn from everybody. Today on the episode, we've got Brandon. He's got a net worth of 17.5, and he's probably one of 2 or 3 people I can think of at all that have a substantial portfolio in precious metals, particularly gold. And in his case, it's majority there. He's got a little bit in the market, a little bit in a private equity investment, which we get into both those categories as well. Low 7 figures for each of them. But yeah, gold had quite the run up. So he's, you could think of him as, one of those investors in precious metals that has seen a crazy cascade of increases lately. If anybody's been paying attention to the gold markets. So going to be an interesting episode. It's something that I feel like we really don't talk about on the episode a lot. I think traditional financial advice from most people out there and most investors, I think his statistic that he gives is less than 1% or 0.5% of people even hold precious metals in their portfolio. So it's something that is, definitely not talked about very much. And from a traditional standpoint, most, financial advisors or, people don't typically recommend having a large portfolio of gold. And even Brandon says himself that he would never recommend kind of the levels that he's in, but it's an asset class he's comfortable with. And for him, he's in it, been riding the waves. He rents, never owned a home, which was interesting. We don't have very many people on the podcast like that. And we get into the details on kind of his thought process around that and why he is a renter only. So going to be a great episode with him, and without any further delay, let's get right into it. Brandon, do you want to just give us about your background or what's up to you now?
Sure. My name is Brandon Thor. I am the founder and CEO of Thor Metals Group. We are a precious metals dealer. So we sell physical gold and silver, so coins and bars. I was always in finance. I was an investment banker for a while, and then was in hard metals for the last decade before starting this company. So that's my professional career. In a past life, I played baseball, went to USC, Southern California kid, and playing the concert pianist. So I guess there's your dating show kind of questionnaire as well. So it's a little bit about
That's
me.
Awesome. Yeah, and you glossed over a ton with your career. We're going to get into all the details. But before we do, what's your net worth today?
My net worth today, give or take about what this metals market's doing, I'd say about 17.5 million. I mean, it's really skyrocketed the last 6 months. I mean, if you've been following gold and silver, and I'm heavily into way less diversified than I would ever recommend anybody be. Let's put it that way. So, but metals have done very well.
Yeah. So let's dive into that. What is kind of the breakup of the 17.5?
Yeah. So the physical metals, they constitute roughly about half of that, and then my business, I would say, I'm a majority owner. I own 80%. that's valued with around, I'd say about 25, 30 million. So yeah, my business, the metals, I have a stock portfolio that's one, two. So I think maybe more, maybe I was being a bit modest. So, I've about one, two in stocks, but just very specific equities. And then that's it. No real estate. I think real estate's a liability. Don't compare me to Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I do agree with him on that. But that's pretty much it. So I have a couple choice equities that I like for specific reasons. I have just a ton of physical metals and future contracts, and then I own this business. So that's how I make my money.
That's cool. So let's, I want to ask you a couple things on that. So do you own a home at all, or do you just rent?
No, I just rent. I literally here's the thing. I actually was almost gonna fall into that whole American dream, thing, and to get the home. And it was for reasons that had nothing to do with me just changing my mind. There was some deceit with the realtor and whatnot, but I was looking at it, and I was talking to my parents, and my parents bought our childhood home for $450,000 in 1988. Okay, it's worth 4.8 million. All right, now think about it. Now that would mean that we would be buying a house. Let's say we bought a house at 3 million. That mean it would be worth like 30 million in the next. I mean, it's just. I think that's over. That whole ride's over for real estate. It definitely was an American dream for a while, but I just think that now, with the way things are and the prices of real estate and just a lot of other things that are going on with the currencies and whatnot, I just think that. They're selling you something that passed. That's just my belief. Now, I'll just run some numbers by you. So, okay, I live in a $10 million house. Okay, so but I lease it. All right. Now, if I wanted to buy it, I would put down about, I'd say 2.5. Okay, so 2.5 down, and let's call the first 2 years of mortgage payments. That would cost me another 1.5. Okay, so 2.5, 1.9, so $4 million. Okay, now $4 million in that first 2 years. If I put $4 million in gold 2 years ago, do you know how much that would be worth? I'll just tell you, it would be worth about 8.6 million. So if that real estate in the last 2 years could appreciate to that degree, then you have an argument, for owning a real estate. But if you know what you're doing, I just think there's so many things that you can put your money in, or put your wealth in, that will do better for you than real estate, and also give you more sovereignty. Because let's be honest, as long as there's property taxes, you're not fully sovereign even when you own a home. So you can tell where I stand on that spectrum with that statement.
Yeah, no, and it's a great perspective, and I feel like that's fairly common with people that live on the coast too, where it's like a lot of times the economics make a lot more sense renting than owning, especially if you don't plan to be there forever. But I'm curious, the emotional side. Do you move frequently, or do you try to lock in with a long-term lease so that you don't get forced to
Yeah.
move at all, or how do you think about that?
It's a good question. I mean, look at so and I'm blessed with the type of real estate that I lease, because the type of real estate I lease is generally not, hey, I'm moving back in a year. It's a guy that probably has about 10, 11 homes, a pretty wealthy guy. So usually it's kind of like, hey, you can live there for in perpetuity, pretty much, or you can even, lease to buy. I mean, generally the landlords are, quote unquote, that I deal with are pretty wealthy people, and so there's not going to be that, boot out the door. It's not a condo or a condo building, but yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It's not like the same as kind of putting roots down and putting on an addition yourself, or watching a house kind of evolve. But I've moved. Let's see, I've Marina Del Rey. I lived for 5 years here, so I've moved 3 times in the last 15 years. So I mean, not like a vagabond by any means, but yeah, I mean, not not as sedentary probably as a homeowner.
Yeah, I mean, what's the average move? I think like people stay in their place like 7 years, so you're just a few years less than that. It's not like you're moving every year, renting from one to the next, where it's an inconvenience. So I mean, it makes sense, and of course, the economics of it have played definitely in your favor, especially recently. It sounds like so. Not that, it's bad to own, it's bad to rent, like just personal preference and place where you live in the United States or elsewhere in the world. Sometimes it just makes sense one way or the other, no matter what.
And think about this. I mean, okay, so something catastrophic happens, not my fault, right? Insurance, not my fault, right? Something breaks, not my fault. So I mean, all these things that I'm protected in, and at the same time, it's you can find your personality in a home. I mean, there's enough inventory out there that you can find something and make it you. So you can still kind of get that ownership feeling as well. But people do have that nostalgia mixed with the emotional attachment where the real estate's just a different investment. It's an investment of a different ilk. But I just think that if you are a savvy investor, and you know what you're doing in some area, be it bonds, be it stocks, be it I was about to say real estate, be it metals, then you can most all the time do a lot better as far as the return in doing that. Doing what you're decent in, as opposed to just having that money just sunk in that real estate, and then God forbid something goes wrong or something. But it's good for people that like aren't savvy. Maybe they aren't the savviest. Maybe they're busy doctors or something, and it's a good place to kind of park wealth. At least it's better than the dollar, where you're just bleeding out with hyperinflation, or it's about to enter hyperinflation. So I mean, different strokes for different folks, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So, does your lease go up every year? I know that's sometimes something that people worry about too, is like, lease payment continues to increase, whereas you lock in a mortgage and you know what it is forever.
So what I like to do is I like to pay up front for a year. I mean, because I can discount it down, and then I know what I'm at. Don't have to deal with the monthly stuff, or whatever. So like this, I got the guy $250,000. So I just kind of I sent him a wire for 250 grand, and good for the year. And they like that so much, in the fact of getting that money all at one time is such a benefit to them, that they generally aren't gonna raise me too much. And then you also have a lot of rules in California and laws and stuff. So living on the coast, you are protected as a tenant, in a lot of ways. Not as much of the high end stuff as the other stuff, but you still do have your protections.
Yeah, appreciate you kind of shedding some light on that. So, on the stocks that you have, you mentioned you got about 1,200,000 or something. Kind of tell us about that. Why do you have some stocks when you've got so much, between gold and metals in your business? Why have a little portfolio out there that's not in
Yeah,
that?
I mean, and I'm kind of pissed about it too, because so my friend is in my friend's in venture capital, and he got me into investing in a company called Simple Bet, right? Okay, and this was a startup. Now these are long shots, so I put in six figures in there, and I'm pretty much burning it, right? It's a long shot, but if it hits, it hits. Now they got bought out by DraftKings. Okay, so they hit. Now I'm thinking, okay, I'm in a micro betting site that actually proved itself as the best in show. At one point, I was up about, like, I think 12x on my money, or at least my private equity friend told me that, because it wasn't publicly traded. But then they merged with DraftKings in some sweetheart deal. I don't know what went on, and I just feel like, for the risk I took, I didn't necessarily get the squeeze. But now, so anyway, so my stock portfolio is a bunch of freaking DraftKings stock. That's what I got. So
And
there
you
you
can't
go.
sell it, or just chosen not to sell it?
No. I did. There was a lockup period. I can sell it, but I'm just like, I don't know. For some reason, I just chose not to. Because I just feel like there's some I can't really explain if it's karmic or something. I just feel like the moment I sell it, something's gonna occur with that freaking company. So I'm like, you know what? It was an investment. This is what I got out of it, and I'm just gonna ride it. In the gambling industry, I think that has a big future with sports, and the intersection there. So I don't mind the exposure.
That's a great story. I love it. When did you first make that investment?
Okay, I made that in I mean, it's sickening how little I made for the risk. I made it in 2020 during COVID, okay? What I put in? I mean, like a quarter million or something. No, more than that. I mean, I mean, we're talking like these things. They do not succeed like 99 out of 100 times. I mean, this is a long shot. It's like a lottery ticket. So like when they do hit, like when you do get one, right? Like and you're getting paid like a treasury bond yield, you're like, what the frick happened? But yeah, no, it was in 2020 during COVID, right? And my buddy, he's a good salesman, and I mean he sold me on it, and I used to be a professional gambler. Just drop that in there. I actually made money doing it, and so I knew the space. I really do believe in that micro betting market. I think that's going to take off in some fashion. I did like their tech, and I like the guy that was running the show over there. Is a gentleman by the name of, what's his first name is Levy's his last name, but he's done a couple companies, so he knows what he's doing. And so I had some confidence in that respect, but yeah, it kind of left us out. I mean, I'm probably the only winning gambler, gambler or not gambler, winning investor that actually made a return that's bitter about it. But yeah, that's what happened with that one.
Well, it makes sense. And it sounds like you actually had a little bit of an advantage in kind of from your background and actually making that investment. It wasn't just kind of shoot off the hip and took the sales pitch from your buddy. You actually had some knowledge there. So it makes sense. I mean, heck, why not? Right.
Well, yeah. Let's put it this way, okay? Like it's my knowledge versus my buddy, not with my buddy. Like we don't like it's not an ally. Okay? It's completely the opposite. But
Yeah.
yeah, no. At least if let's put it this way: if I didn't know what I'm doing, then we would be having a different conversation. I would lower my net worth, and I would have $0 in stock market. He would be selling me on some horse-drawn buggy whip company or something. God knows.
It's always good to have a friend that's selling you on something, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so let's talk about the metals because that's where a majority of your net worth is. How long have you been investing in metals?
I mean, I've been investing in metals for the better part of 12 years. I came from an investment banking background. I worked at Guggenheim Partners, okay, and then because I played baseball, I was just tired of being chained to a desk. I was on the West Coast, so I wake up at freaking 3 in the morning, these hours out here because trading the market. And I had opportunity to get into the sports representation. So I did that, right? And now the problem with that is that every young boy that's not a professional baseball player wants to be a freaking sports agent. So they don't have to pay anything, and it takes about 7 years for these guys to actually make it. They're not like football players or basketball players, right? So it was just the economics living in LA and making $36,000 base salary a year and knowing that you're about 6-7 years from making your first commission. You're traveling around rock watching your guys in the minors. I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved the job. I couldn't wait. I couldn't put in that time. So I was at a bar, and my buddy was in hard metals, and it was like that scene in Wolf of Wall Street where it's like, you show me your paycheck, I'll quit my job right now type thing. Because I was being recruited by another sports agency, and he's like, listen, why don't you give up this Peter Pan job and sell metals? You'd be really good at it. You understand the financial markets and whatnot. And I'm like, no, I really like this. I love, I've always loved baseball. I really love selling. I like what I'm doing. I like being, behind these players. And he's like, oh, I made 150 grand last month. I'm like, yeah, you show me your paycheck, I'll quit my job right now. And so that was my first kind of taste of that industry was that lucrative. I never knew. I mean, I never even knew it really existed. And so that's what got me initially in. And so what I found out later was he actually had an ulterior motive, which was he was going to start his own metals dealer, and he wanted me to be an incepting broker. So he basically wanted to bring me in the place he was working at, let me blow their leads, well, I was horrible. And then when he started his company, then, bring me along. So that was how I got started. And then I've been in the industry ever since.
So did you do that? Did you go with him? And then when he started his own company, you went with him too?
Yeah, so I went with him, and so I was one of the incepting brokers of that company. That company grew to one of the large national firms, and then I got recruited and poached, and I was the managing director at another very very large national firm, and then I started Thor Metals Group. Now I started this firm as a purpose-driven company. This actually was a purpose-driven company because the industry I found was becoming more and more predatory. And the reason is simply because I call gold the secret investment hiding in plain sight. It's just very bizarre. It's been around forever. Everybody knows it's valuable, but nobody invests in it, right? They'll buy it for their girlfriend for Valentine's Day, but they're not going to invest in bullion. And so I always found that odd, and I also found odd that it was never on CNBC, never covered by the Wall Street Journal, and because of that abyss, because of that lack of centralized and respected education, it created a fertile breeding ground for predatory business practices. So people that were interested in it, they were stuck kind of taking the broker's word for it, and there was all these little scams and stuff that these companies would run. They would sell what's called proprietary coins. So they would commission a mint to make a coin just for them. So you couldn't price check it. Now you're a first time investor. You can't price check the asset. You have to take a broker's word for it. And then you find out that you pay 130% commission. And that's just robbery in my mind. So I was seeing this stuff. It was just getting more egregious and just more predatory. I thought I could do it better. And I really believed in gold and silver. I mean, the one thing that did happen during those years was it sold me. I mean, I see it as a religion now. I mean, it's like it's the only form of true money in my eyes. I'm that guy. Believe me, that annoying guy that says that stuff. But I really do believe that. And so I felt, hey, it's the industry's unregulated and it's not going to ever be regulated. And the reason is because it's not the worst thing in the world for people to get ripped off and for it to have somewhat of a black eye. And I'll tell you why. Because if you invest in gold, you're not invested in the banking system, right? So it's a direct competitor against all the banks. If you invest in gold, you're not in a Wall Street firm and having some advisor trade your money and make those AUM fees. And if you invest in gold, then you're not the U.S. dollar, which are loans backed by the U.S. government, right? So you got the U.S. government, the banking industry, and Wall Street not wanting you invested in this, this physical asset. So what happens? Well, that's why less than half of 1% of people are invested in it, and that's why it's this kind of secretive industry with shady practices and whatnot. So I just felt, hey, I believe in this stuff. I think I could do this in a fair way and still compete with the big boys, and that's what was the star of Thor Metals Group. So it was a purpose-driven company. We're very unique as far as what we sell, how we sell, and just pretty much everything we do and how we do business. So I'm proud of what we've done in the last 3 years, and we've grown. God, we've grown a lot, about 30x from where we started for a year one tax return to this one. So I mean, it's been a ride, but I think the best is yet to come. If you've been seeing what metals are finally having their moment after being in the shadows for so long.
How long ago did you start Thor Metals Group?
So I started the company on August 1st, 2023. Okay, so what was that? 3 years ago.
Just a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it's tough, man. It's when you're competing against those types of companies that are making those big rips, and it's crazy because again, it's a secret investment. There's not like a Yahoo Gold, or there's not like a centralized education, where you can really understand it. And so you have these companies that are making these egregious commissions, and then paying, these Fox celebrities and conservative celebrities to endorse them. And so what does that create? Well, it creates a pretty big war chest. And what does that create? Creates the ability to market more. So, it's it's kind of just a not self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's like, an avalanche, right? It just gets bigger and bigger. So, competing against those guys and still doing things the right way and trying to keep the commissions down and everything, it was challenging. But, once you got through those barriers to entry, which they were tough ones, but once you got through, then it's a good business. It really is.
How much physical gold do you typically keep too? like actual bars?
Yeah, so our company, we're a facilitator. All right, so what we do is we have contracts with the wholesalers like Amark, Till Engage. So these are United States mint listed providers. So you wouldn't be able to buy metals from them. It's pretty much institutional investors. You have to buy quite a bit a year to get contracts with them. So we have contracts with them, and then so we buy on the wholesale market, sell in the retail market, and then that difference is how we stay in business. So as far as us being a market participant, we aren't. We don't take that market participant risk. But I do on a personal level, of course, but the company doesn't.
Yeah, and on the personal level, how much do you typically? I mean, are you stacking gold like in some vaults and stuff, or how does that work?
Right,
I think
it's
gold,
funny
and
that
I mean, I have a little bit myself, but I'm just thinking of like somebody who has the level that you do. Like, what? How does this? What does
well,
this look
hey,
like?
you have some gold yourself. Is it not the most humbling thing in the world when you see it in the flesh? I mean,
Oh yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, I
it's
remember going. There's very few moments that I remember as a really young kid. I mean, like sub 10 with my grandfather, one of my grandfathers. But him going and showing me his gold bars in his safe is one of them because I just saw him stacked up, and I was like, holy crap!
well,
Like
how
an
much
8-year old kid, like. You got all
Jesus.
these guns and you got all this gold. Like, holy moly. I'm never going to forget that?
That's amazing. So he was a gold bug, huh? I mean, like he
Oh
was
yeah,
in the
my grandfather was. This is my dad's dad. It was, he bought property, he bought gold, and he
yeah,
bought guns, and
yeah,
then he had a
yeah,
ton of cash, and that was it. He
yeah,
never. I mean, literally, when he died, it was like that was it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the physical assets, man. I mean, it's making more and more sense. I mean, when he did it, it might have been a bit more paranoia, but now it's just shoot,
Yeah,
look at what's going on.
yeah.
But what's really funny is $1 million in gold fits in like half a woman's shoebox. I mean, it's incredible. It's not like the movies. I mean, you like what your grandpa had. I mean, I was like, Jesus, you're a billionaire. I mean, because gold's gone up so much, but it's literally it's very humbling when you see like just how valuable it is just for an ounce of gold or I invest in fractional metal because I have a strategy that I don't trademark it, but I kind of stumbled upon it, which is in a bull market, what you find is the fractional weights. So like for example, American Eagle, they make it in a 1 ounce, a half ounce, a quarter ounce, and a 10th ounce weighting. And so the fractional weights in a bull market is the more affordable, more transactable, more divisible. So it has that heightened desirability, and then of course it has a larger demand market because it's more affordable. And they don't make more supply. So what you found, or what I found, is that it performs better relative to even the other weights. So I acquire just fractional weights. That's kind of my play. Or my little nuance of the market, but yeah, I mean I stack them. They come in tubes. They're like the size of dimes, and each of these little dimes is like $500. I mean it's wild. It really is.
That's cool.
Now
So
silver,
yeah,
that's another
yeah.
story. Okay,
That's another conversation, right?
yeah.
What's the plan? I mean, do you have a target net worth? Do you have, big aspirations with kind of your portfolio or your wealth, or, how do you think about that from a global perspective, down the road?
You want to know something funny, man? That never was my goal. I mean, I was when I first started this company. Well, let's go back a bit. When I was a broker, I was making a good amount of money. I mean, we're talking, I was clearing a couple $1 million a year in easy, and just living like that life in LA, and I was just as depressed as you can be. Just like, I mean, you couldn't be more depressed. And I just didn't feel like I had a meaning. I didn't feel like I was doing anything for the world at all. And I mean, and I did feel like I was ripping people off, it was, discovering this company and feeling like, okay, I'm doing something, and that what that made me feel inside. I just that's what drove me, and that's what made me work as hard as I did. And I was happy when I had negative $12 in my business account. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do the next month. I was happy as a clam. So the money kind of came as like the exhaust off the rocket ship. The rocket ship was like the idea, that feeling, chasing that that kind of that satisfaction, that fulfillment, so to speak. So what I want to do, I do want to change this industry. I think that everybody should really understand gold and silver better. I think that it's a tremendous asset as far as giving people sovereignty, protecting their buying power and stuff. So I would love to get huge. Money is a great way of keeping score. Even if you're not buying Lamborghinis or you're not that guy, it is a good way of keeping score, and I'm competitive. So I do like it in that respect. But I really would love to grow this business as large as I could possibly can, just so I can kind of spread the gospel of metals, because I feel that there's just nobody, disproportionately low amount of people that understand metals compared to how many should.
Makes sense. Appreciate you sharing that. Well, let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What's the most expensive pair of shoes or pants that you purchased?
The most expensive pair of shoes, let's say $1,200.
What kind were those?
I'll tell you. Suit, probably worth suit 26 grand. That was a big one, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What about the most expensive meal out?
Let's see, 18,000, probably 18 grand. Yeah, and now
Was that for a big group, or was that just some expensive wine?
The expensive wine. I mean, that's what I'm saying, a real deal. Because if you're counting like that whole Vegas crap, then now you're in the six figures, and it's BS. But but like we're talking real restaurant, real wine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They had zeros in Vegas, right? Well, especially you said you're a professional gambler for a little bit, right? So I'm sure you had a few of those.
Yeah. A bottle of vodka for freaking $700 for a bottle of Grey Goose, and then you get a Rouse for $35. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But another world.
Yeah. What about the most expensive trip or experience?
Most expensive trip or experience? Let's see. I went to Europe. I mean, that cost a pretty penny. Experience, what did I pay a lot of money to do? I actually went to North Vietnam. I was really interested in getting up, and I had an opportunity to do that. And a lot of people don't go up to North Vietnam. They go to the different kind of touristy places. So I went up there with my friend, and we got a villa, and we bounced there, went to Thai Islands, and we did that whole bit. And that was high five figures, so that was a pretty expensive trip. But we were gone for a while, and money stretches pretty good out there too. So that was a fun one. But that was a really unique place. I mean, that's a totally different world out there, man. Total.
That's cool. What's the craziest thing you've ever done to earn money?
Man, I was an entrepreneur my whole life. I had a trash business where I would take in and out the trash cans for my neighbors, and I had kind of a sliding scale. I'd charge them depending on their age, which was probably not moral, because the older they were, it could jack up the price, because it was probably tougher for them to take the trash out. But I had a trash business. I did. I would take care of people's pets when they went on vacation. I went to a Catholic school, so I would buy all this candy in bulk and sell it in the back of the classroom, Smart and Final. And then that got me in trouble, actually. A lot of kids with a sugar high in fourth grade in Catholic school. It doesn't go well. But I was always into something. I had a neighborhood newspaper, and I had all the kids writing articles for it. But my mom made me return everybody's subscription because I had collected it up front and only did 3 issues. And so I learned my first lesson on, being a man of honor, just pill for people's money and then, end it. But I was always into something, man. My neighbor owned a bunch of McDonald's, and so I got hooked up with his distributor for Happy Meal toys, and the guy owned an inflatable furniture company. So I had this company called Air Chairs that sold inflatable furniture, and that that's when I found out about paying taxes. So that was a big good lesson too. So that business was fun though. That was a good one, and people like that. Now there was remember that time when the inflatable furniture was hip. I don't know if it still is, but there was a time when people liked it. But yeah,
Yeah, I
sure.
think it's still popular in the pools, right? For people that have pools and using pools.
Yeah, my buddy actually owns like one of those like really the high end pool float companies. It's called Fun Boy, and so I think they've
Oh yeah.
definitely evolved past my little inflatable couches, but yeah, that was a good business, and the funny thing is that I always had really good business ideas. When I was at USC, I was an entrepreneurship program, and I had the idea, and this was way before the male metrosexual trend, that to have the male-oriented hair salons, because at that time you could go to Supercuts or you had to go to a women's salon. You couldn't get a male, like a nice haircut in a male atmosphere. And so I had that idea. I had the whole business plan written, everything. And I'm telling you, and I might get sued for this, but I'm going to tell it anyways because I know this happened. But I won the award. I won the award in the school for the best business idea. And then my parents talked me to go into law school instead of launching it. And sure enough, Sports Clips comes around. Take a look where that guy went to business school. So, anyways, but that was a good.
Yeah, those
that,
guys,
that was
they
a
live
good
right down the
Sports
street from me.
You know the guy?
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
so look at so Sports Clips, like after Sports Clips, I'm trying to remember, there's about 5 or 6 of them and they exploded. But you remember I think Sports Clips was the first one though. You remember before Sports
Yeah.
Clips it was like Supercuts or women's, right? Like you couldn't get a
Oh
male
yeah.
haircut. So yeah. That was a good idea. I wish I would have done that one. And then I was just always in corporate jobs as an entrepreneur. Like it was it was almost like I was dressed in a costume that didn't fit me. And I'm glad I found my way back. I mean, I think it was inevitable, but I would never ever ever work for anybody but myself because I am the worst boss ever. Horrible hours, just never time vacation. I'm just a way worse boss than anyone would ever be on me, So it's definitely my calling. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. What's a key lesson that you learned from childhood?
I mean, boy, you're throwing out some real broad ones here. So, key lesson I learned from childhood. Let's see. Are we talking like sage parental advice or don't stick your finger there advice type stuff? What are we talking about?
I mean, anything. Just keep it G-rated.
No.
Your kid to listen to this thing.
Let's see. What was the key lesson I learned from childhood? I'll tell you. This is a lesson I learned from childhood. But it was told to me during childhood. I learned it as an adult. Okay, and this is something that's so funny, and I think you'll agree with me. It's if you're consistent and you do what you say and you show up, you'll be a success. You'll be ahead of 99.9% of people. I mean, it's that simple. Like, it's not even like exceptional geniuses. If you show up and you do what you say and you always follow through, you will be ahead of 99.9% of people in the workforce. And it sounded like the most like non-motivating advice ever, but it's I found it to be true. I mean, I found it to be a rarity, somebody that does what they say, always follows through, and always shows up and is consistent. So yeah, it's good advice. And it actually is as true as what it was told to me.
Yeah. What's the dumbest thing you've ever wasted money on?
Jesus, let's see here. I mean, what is the dumbest thing I've ever wasted money on? I went through a stage where, well, you know what? I mean, I answered it earlier. Freaking nightclubs. I mean, nightclubs were the dumbest thing ever. I mean, it was like $80,000, $90,000 tables because some guy presses play and his DJ. That was the dumbest waste of money. Okay. So, but behind that, like behind experiential stuff, like material things that I would waste money on that I think were stupid. Baseball cards. I know that's going to be an unpopular answer because some people have a nostalgia with it, but I think looking back, I mean, shoot, that's probably where the gambling thing started, right? I mean, that was gambling. That's where you really first learned it. You had those packs and like come in with the money and you're just trying to get the valuable players. But I don't know. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but I spent a lot of money on freaking those pieces of cardboard, and I don't know where they are. So
That's great. That's great. What's a closely held belief that you once had that you recently changed your mind on?
God, man, you got some good questions. Let's see. A closely held belief that I once had that I've changed my mind. Okay. I'm gonna kind of try to crystallize it. So, I grew up Catholic. I still would consider myself Catholic. That just kind of the banner under which I express my spirituality. I'm not like a devout Catholic, but I'll tell you, when you grow up Catholic, you grow up kind of, it's almost like a superiority complex. They teach us like this is like the only true religion, and this, not that, you have all these traditions and stuff. And what's interesting is I don't know, don't ask me how, if it was a girl related or something, but I got introduced to like horoscope stuff and astrology, and I kid you not it's just too accurate to be coincidental. It's just too accurate. I don't know what the mystery is. I can't figure it out. I don't know where it comes from or what, but it's something that I always thought was just complete BS, and there's no way it's BS. It completely changed my mind on it. I mean, it just is. There's been some things that have been so spot on that it's like it can't be a coincidence. There's got to be some sort of a rhyme or reason or pattern to it. It has to.
Interesting. One thing, or a couple things we haven't touched on. Are you married? Any kids?
Not married. I'm single. No kids. I got a mini golden doodle named Frank. That's like the closest thing to my kid. But yeah, no, I think that, it's weird because, I was, in my 20s was, USC, kind of lived the frat, I was a frat boy, live that life. And I think like you get a couple shots, right? You have like your two relationships maybe. And if those miss, you're career oriented, then it's like, you're in a hole for a while, right? So, that's where I've been, right? You get your two shots, and then it's been like build this company and learn this for like the last 5-6 years. So, yeah.
How old are you now?
How old do I look?
Oh.
I'm 43.
Oh,
So.
you're still pretty young.
Well, how old are you, man? You look like you're freaking 20.
I'm 37. Look like I'm 20? Dude, I got 5 kids, man. I hope I don't look like I'm 20 still.
Oh, you're right. Wait. All right, you got 5 kids. You're okay. Jesus, you have 5
I don't have
kids?
any gray, but I'm, it's starting to recede a little bit. I mean, I kid you not, though. To my dad, I look at a picture of him when he's 19, and I look at him now, and I'm like, dude, a little less hair is it. Like, you look like the same dude as you were 19. Like, I hope it holds for me. I'm losing a little faster than he did, though.
So okay. So did you always want the family? Like, are they like how does that happen? Like, I mean, I know how it happens, but how does that happen?
Yeah. Like, let's finish you real quick, and then I'll answer your question. Yeah. So to wrap up here, any last words of advice that you'd give to anybody who's starting out?
Like just in anything or the entrepreneurship or just
anything. 43 years old, you got a net worth 17, 20 plus, whatever. Single dude living in a nice mansion out in California, renting, never owned. Playing the metals game. Hit big on a bet. What would you tell a 22-year-old kid that's living that frat life, trying to figure his life out?
Man, I tell them 2 things because, I think I lost a lot of years off my life, and I think I cost myself a lot of undue anxiety worrying that I wasn't going to end up at this destination. But looking back, it was inevitable. And again, it goes back to like the universe and some of these things. I'm kind of it was inevitable. I mean, I was eventually going to be pulled here, either by my own volition or by force. But so I guess that would be one thing. Is just I think I wasted too much time worrying that I was on the right path and what was right path and was I really doing what I was meant to do and all that other stuff. And the second thing is this is listen, we know when we've hit it. We know when we've hit something that fulfills us, that we like, that we enjoy, we get something out of, and we know when it doesn't. And and we know when we're lying to ourselves about when it doesn't, and I mean, I'm a perfect example of that. I mean, I was a professional liar. I mean, I was making an ungodly amount of money, and I was really good at the job, and I was not happy, but I was really good at lying to myself about, like, why this was so good and why I was so lucky, but like by whose standard, about my own. So I mean, I think that people, and this is going to sound very campy and very cliche, but you got to do what you're passionate about, because that's the only way you'll make money. I truly believe that if you chase money, you might be wealthy. Maybe you might be like a W-2 lawyer, making like $1 million and paying 500,000 to taxes. I mean, you're not going to really hit it. If you chase your passion, that's the rocket ship, and the money's just the exhaust that comes off the rocket ship, right? But once the money becomes the rocket ship, then there's definitely a ceiling, right? But if the money's just the exhaust that comes off the rocket ship, that thing could go as far into space as you want it to go. So I would just say it's too short, man. We have too few days on this this spinning globe, and you might as well do something you like to do, and no matter what it is, there's money to be made in that. I mean, I'm staring at my desk right now, and if I like desks, there's money to be made. I mean, if you have a passion for it, there's money to be made,
That's awesome. That's Brandon with a net worth of $17.5+ million. Thanks for the show today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.